Mrs. Gonzalez. Mr. Jimenez.
Present.
Dr. Perlman.
Here.
Dr. Nashua.
Here.
Mrs. Tai.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Sandra. Thank you, Ms. Sandra. That was perfect. All right. Section 1.03, presentation staff reports. We're going into a study session. We are going to have staff presentations regarding district engagement with third-party nonprofit services and related supports. Ms. Fuentes.
Good evening, President Gonzalez, Vice President Jimenez, board members, Superintendent Knowles, Cabinet, APT, CSEA, and members of the audience. Tonight, we are sharing PUSD's efficacy data correlated with programming to meet the needs of our students in light of the pandemic and closing those academic and social emotional learning needs. This report overview is going to be looking at the aggregate student participation data across programs. The measure would be iReady academic improvement by student population, Lexile academic improvement by student population, individual program snapshots, the summary, and our objectives as we continue moving forward. The various programs were created as a response to the pandemic and students losing instructional time. Funding sources were AB 86, CARES Act, Expanding Learning Opportunity Program, Extended Learning, LCFF, and SR3. The aggregate student participation data across programs. This year in 23-24, I'm going to be highlighting that we served 14,813 more students than the previous year when we were coming back from COVID. When we look at how many hours of supplemental services were delivered to our students, we closed in on almost 1 million hours last school year. Student engagement by program, a healthy mix of high intensity and all-encompassing programs. And if you look here, you might say, well, that's a huge difference of students, but the programming is different, and I'll highlight some of the areas. So the club, we actually partnered with them in having our students go to the location, but we also brought in a program this year for structured recess and lunch play at our school sites. What we found out, and research was telling us, that many of our students forgot how to play. They just totally forgot, and there was a lot of referrals and suspensions because of fighting as we entered the school year. And so we brought in a structured program where the students were engaged, also with the campus supervisors, and teaching students how to play again. And so we had a large amount of students participating in that program across all elementary schools. We had 6-week rotations, and it was very well received. National College Research Foundation is a program that we use as a push-in model, and many times they was focusing on math in the math area, especially at the secondary, and you'll see a breakdown on that. TLC, as you know it, is the Learning Connection, and that provides a safe space for our students to have homework assistance after school, enrichment activities. Middle Tree also was under the umbrella of TLC due to the shortage of staffing that we have been experiencing, and they brought in quite a bit of their expertise of tutoring and supporting in enrichment areas. Justice for Youth, also again programming, they came in as the KEEP program, after school programming, really working with our students after school, and this was something that we asked them to do based on the pandemic and the funding sources that were designated for enhancing our programming after school. CYFC helps our most vulnerable students. We created a program there that is very specific for students that are at loss of credits, really felt lost over the pandemic. Many were ashamed that they had fallen, didn't have enough credits to graduate, and how do they maneuver the system? And so working in collaboration with the counselors, we really have partnered with CYFC. And then Bright Prospects is our mentoring program. Again, one-to-one research says that is the most effective type of tutoring, and you'll see some of the results. And Uncommon Good is also another mentoring program that we have. Again, this is a partnership we have with Schoolbox to get all the data, and this is part of the program of that we have here. So if we look here, the big focus was to accelerate the learning recovery. And we have, again, hours in program and hours per student. And we shared this PowerPoint with you also. When we look at our program, we can really see here that our principals and our schools have done a great job of really identifying the most neediest kids in third grade, and making sure that we have our literacy initiative that says all students should be reading by third grade. We know that these were our little ones that lost edge during the pandemic. They were in preschool. And, they came back and they were now really behind. They lost that. So we made sure that we are targeting our students so you could see that there was growth here. When we look at the schools for a higher dosage of schools that had 30 and more hours, we look up and we see Vehar at the top, and we see our cluster 4 schools at the lower end. But we're really happy to report that due to the funding that's coming up in this ELOP and for extended learning programs, that we are now going to be targeting those schools with an actual teacher, full-time teacher, to oversee some of the programming. We have never been able to offer cluster 4 any programming because they did not qualify. They were not Title I schools, and they didn't follow the guidelines that were needed. Due to ELOP now, we'll be able to service, and so families for the first time will have free programming up in cluster 4. And again, if you looked at some of our data that we've been sharing, we're trying to, right now we service 1,800 students a year in this program, and our goal is to get up to 3,000 with the new addition of our services. When we look at middle schools, we also had middle schools, and again, this does not pertain to secondary unless it's Bright Prospects and Uncommon Good and National College Research Foundation. But our middle schools, as you can see, Marshall really took advantage. We actually had a program by National College Research Foundation on esports, and the kids really have gravitated to wanting to come. And this has been a really hard area to fill the spots because our middle schoolers sometimes want to go home at 2:15. But we've tried to bring in engaging programs to keep them in the programs. When we look at...
I'm sorry, may I just ask a quick question?
Oh, sure.
Yes, please.
When you're talking about programming, you're talking about all the programs that we offer from that list. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about programming? Like how many students took advantage of the programming?
Yes.
You're talking about all those various programs that you...
Yes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
one of
I just wanted to clarify.
And so I think that what was, and I think Dr. Perlman, we had talked about, and that's why we engaged in this. We wanted to see what was the effect of having programs with our partners. What do they do for our schools, plus our TLC program, plus our mentoring programs. And so last year, we first embarked in partnering with Schoolbox and creating this data collection. And last year, again, it was coming back from pandemic, and we saw some positive results, but we were building out this program, this platform with them. And so we've asked for certain things for this year, and we're asking a tie-in of what we're going to continue for growing and building out some more programs. So like Brothers Forum is not on here because we're going to be tying it to suspensions and to reduction of chronic absenteeism. So we're building out as we're going. Remember, many of these programs that you see here, except the TLC program, are new to our system. And the reason was we were being responsive to the needs of what had happened after COVID. But we wanted to have a measure. As these funding sources, many of them were one time, and many of them were different, wanted us to meet these needs, where they were barriers on health, they were barriers on social emotional, they were barriers on academics. And so what we did is we partnered because, again, we were also at a point where staffing was an issue across the district, across many companies. So that's what we were.
Thank you. I'm trying to understand the pie chart that you have.
Mm-hmm.
The largest, 76.3%, indicates it's not reported, and we don't have any Latino or Hispanic students reported.
You know what? They took it out. Oh, okay. I will have it fixed because my original one, it had the blue is that. Because I remember going through it. So we will have it revised. And
So
we'll send
Latino
it.
is not reported. It's the equivalent.
It is reported. It's the 74 and the 76.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about
Yes.
that.
Are you finished? So, in other words, so with Schoolbox,
Mm-hmm.
we're determining the criteria for each program depending on what, the reason that we partnered with the particular program to begin with. So we're determining the criteria, and now Schoolbox is providing the data, like if it's purely academic, for instance, then they are tracking how
Correct.
the
We
program
data
is.
share. So when we partnered with Schoolbox, we data share our information. So then they tied it to these two metrics, plus they're going to be doing it for our CAST data that actually finally has come out.
Okay.
And so we're going to be tying it, but since it just came out, right now we wanted to give an update on these two metrics that we use for Lexile for reading scores and moving for iReady.
And maybe like for Bright Prospect, like the criteria might be the number of students that apply and end up attending college, or I mean, we don't have it narrowed down quite to that.
We were looking at Lexile. We could ask them. They actually put out a report. Well, and Uncommon does also a report of how many students are going where. So, for instance, Uncommon Good, which is one of our mentoring service, we have our student that went to Stanford, Princeton, there's UCLA, and so they actually itemize or listed every student, college, and then Bright Prospects, we asked for that also. So, but this was truly just a measure on iReady and Lexile levels to measure, do these programs have an impact when students participate after school? Okay?
Right, yeah,
Or
absolutely.
in the mentoring program.
Right, perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
And here is the gap between, so the blue, as you can see, here's the Hispanic. For some reason, it got left out, and I apologize for that.
But all of our schools are Title I now,
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay, so cluster 4, you don't have, cluster 4 qualifies? Okay.
Yes. And also the ELOP money, the after-school money, is also, encompasses now more students, and that is in response to the government responding to parents needing to go back to work and them wanting a longer program. So if you notice, our summer program, an intercession, was longer this summer than ever before. And those are those funds we are using to meet those guidelines. Okay? So let's look at the iReady academic improvement by student population. So when we look at 20% of our students that are in these programs are far behind. So if you look at our red, 18.9, and then it dropped. And so BOY means beginning of year, and EOY means end of the year. So when you look at, and then if you look at the top, we put the number of students participating, 8,647. So the green means that they're on or above grade level. So when we looked at just students overall that are in those programs that are far behind, and that could be more than 3 levels because of the pandemic. I mean, it created this huge gap for our students. We could see that these students made great gains. And then we'll break it down by program so you could see it. This is just an overall for you to see. When we look at students that are 3 grade level behind, as you could see, this affected a little bit over 1,600 kids. Beginning of year, it was all red. But after the whole year, we see some gains. We saw some kids moving up to 2 grade levels and 1 grade level, and a spin actually got to grade level. So we were looking at, does this work for our kids that are, falling behind? And you think about, well, what happens in the after-school programs? Well, there's a safe space for homework help. There's enrichment, so they can apply what they're learning in math and science and language, and they have stories read. We make sure that they have a food, a proper, a snack or dinner. And again, they have a connection and build relationships. In the mentoring programs, the same thing. It's relationship building, and so we see that it has an effect. When we look at students that were 2 grade levels behind, again, on the left side, we had a little bit over 2,400 kids in that area, but you could see that after the year, a lot of those kids that were 2 grade level, we found them in the green at 43%. And we could really say, again, that area of having a place to, because many of our families, number one, over 3,000 of our families are homeless. So many are living in a group, and, have no place to study, so, again, providing these opportunities till 6 o'clock every night is amazing for our families. And our families and all our surveys say they want more of this. I think it was the number one question we got when the consolidations, am I going to get into the after-school program? And it really dictates this. This data is really showing us that the impact is greatly appreciated and needed in our community. When we look at students one grade level behind, so we see that almost half of the kids switched over to being at grade level. They were only one grade and it made an impact. And this is in the area of math. Yes. Do you need me to go back?
No, I'm just saying, am I?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm still on vacation, sorry. I'm on the beach. So I was just thinking earlier, as I was going through the agenda and so on, in my head, from the discussions I had with Roberta and other board members, and maybe some of you, I remember there was we have about 30% consistent, and I would call it like the choir group, but we have the parents that participate in the system, that they're real strong with us, about 30% of the students. And those are the ones sort of kind of going through the system and going into college, right? Mm-hmm. So, because we have where we're real strong there. We have the group of parents that, the ones where we got the Magna Award for, something like that, mm-hmm. where those parents are really with us and working strong. So this 43% is expanding that number a little bit then in terms of, the actual number of students who are paying more attention, because like you said, they're being provided for here at our own facilities, rather than mm-hmm. fighting with a sibling or something, or some other one person mm-hmm. in their space to just do their homework. Mm-hmm. So it matters to have them on the space.
Correct. And that's why our goal this year is to service 3,000 students. That's why our contracts have gotten a little bit bigger, because we are actually wanting them to be here till 6 o'clock. And the thing is also, it's just not about just the homework help. We help them for an hour. But what it is that we're bringing in a lot of enrichment. So many enrichment opportunities are for our students to access and actually be able to think about their future and application of, what they're learning and interest. And so I think that it's an overall, and we talk about the whole child, this is what we're talking about. It's the whole child of, and we say, we may be saying, wow, after school program, but it isn't just the after school program. This is our teachers hard at work coming back from the pandemic. This is our classified staff working with our students in one-to-one opportunities. So it begins to work together, because we always say in education, there's no silver bullet, but it is everybody working with a mission and making sure that literacy and math are going. But we also have to recognize that the huge gap that occurred because of the pandemic, and we're trying to close it by making sure that all these programs are working together, and that we're assessing them, and we're talking about them, and we're meeting. And our schools with our SIPSAs, which are their school plans, are looking to see what are their needs, what is the data saying, and what kind of programs do they need, because the district buys a lot of programs, and we provide a lot of support from counselors to resource teachers, interventions teachers through LCAP. But a lot of times our schools have the autonomy to make those decisions also. What else do they need? Because they're working with that data. And so we support them and looking, but we also make sure that they let us know, how is it working? And if it is working, can you share those best practices? So again, a lot of the research we were looking at, whether it was on tutoring, because people say, well, you spend a lot of money on tutoring. You may spend a lot of money on play. But the research was really saying that we needed to put these things back in place. And one-to-one tutoring is the best tutoring, of course. But then again, we keep our ratios low, 20-1. So we're working through those pieces. So I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Jimenez.
No, it does, in the sense that, because that's what I was asking. I was always, because I keep, forgive me, but it's the acronym, the school, what's it called?
School plan?
School box.
Oh, school box.
Yeah, so because in measuring it, so this is going to help us also in the future mm-hmm. when we go to the state of California, as the tide goes out, after all these monies and COVID goes away, this is what's going to help us say, hey, this is...
Exactly. exactly.
We got the
because
data here, and if you take it
Yes.
away, it's all the way, we're gonna go back to.
Yes, and certain things, and like I mentioned, there was a lot of grants here, SR3 and everything, but we also do have money that's coming in for mitigating learning loss. And so we start looking at what do we sustainable in LCAP, like, certain programs, and then what continues with the mitigating learning loss, again, looking at through these pieces. So, and so then we look at the math scores by program. So if you look at the numbers of students you start looking 8,647 students, just as for youth with the portion that they had. What you have Middle Tree, you have the club. Again, they had recess. And one of the things that we saw, and I have to say it's probably the most sought out phone call besides field trips that I got from schools, please don't take this away from us, is the structure of the club. What they found is a dramatic drop in referrals and suspensions. And for many of us that have been teachers, many times after recess and lunch recess, what did we deal with? We deal with, Juan told me this, Mary told me this, and now you have to spend 20 minutes trying to figure out what happened outside in the playground, or the child gets sent to the office, losing instructional time. Well, we saw it plummeted just completely, where, it was very structured, and I had been at schools, and when we go, a lot of the kids are waiting for the members from the club, and they wear these bright psychedelic sweatshirts, so you can't miss them, and they were waiting for them. Again, relationships, working through, and so what we saw was this drop in referrals and like I said, any suspensions and fighting, because they were learning to play together again. And I think that it was something that was really important for our family. So this was iReady beginning year, and here is some more data on students that are above grade level. These are kids at or above grade level, but they also benefited. So here we had 2,083 students in this realm. And because, again, the club was something that was during recess and lunch recess, and actually also at the club this summer we had over 250 kids. I know, Dr. Froman, you were there. And we saw that the kids, and we partnered with them so parents did not have to figure out, I have to leave my child alone at home. We provided the services through ELOP, and we paid for those memberships, and the kids thrived. They had swimming, they had arts and craft, they had reading. And so again, we see this TLC again, 23 students. It's a small group, but even if they were above and at above or at grade level, you saw an increase. You saw it in Middle Tree, and you saw it in Justice for Youth.
Go ahead, Patty.
So we're used to like what extended learning opportunities are, but maybe the public isn't quite aware of what extended opportunity learnings are. So maybe if you could touch on that.
Sure.
For the people that are watching out there.
So the Extended Learning Program came to be last year, and it really wanted to provide funding for after-school program. Many of us know the program as ACES, After School Safety Program. It really was under Schwarzenegger that program came to be to prevent latchkey kids. And so originally, Pomona Unified School District partnered with 2 outside vendors at that point. Over time, we decided to take it over here. And if many of you know, Darlene Mosier used to oversee that program, and then Dr. Ambrose, and now Mr. Pantanini. But this money is to provide opportunities that are above and beyond to merge with the ACES program to expand the program. And it gives us more funding for enrichment programs. So many of that you were seeing over the summer, Discovery Cube came. We had students dissecting a shark, and looking at the different science opportunities, cooking. I was so excited for some of these programs. I'm like, oh my goodness, if I would have been a kid, I would have loved this. And the Extended Learning Opportunity Program allows us that funding source to add to the ACES, which usually was $3 to $4 million, and this has increased it by a lot more money as we have put in there just for after-school programming and intercession in the summer to run 30 days. So if you saw, many of our programs ran through June and part of July, and so we were able to. We got so many phone calls from parents, so grateful, and saying to us that this is the best programming they've seen in a long time when we opened it across the system. And so again, Extended Learning Opportunity just provides extra funding for after school that is mingling in a sense with ACES money.
As you speak about the and is how things been merging and so on. By the way, I was a latchkey kid. I know how it feels to be a latchkey kid. It's a horrible place to be. You know, I was the head of 3 other latchkey kids, which were my brothers and sisters. So I was their cook. So when they got home, looking at this, one of the things as a board member, something that I look at it and it's a little bit frustrating, is that I know off the top, even in this school district, because of how we are situated around with all the other school districts and so on, that we have a lot of, because of the socioeconomics, we have a lot of people that, they're not participating, like kids are not participating naturally in our school district because they decided to go somewhere else. And naturally, though, that socioeconomic tends to be the ones that are higher socioeconomically. Is there a story here that we're telling? Because I keep looking at that 30%. I saw that 27% again. If you would go back to the slide where you have the club. So I was looking. Can you go back to that slide real quick?
Sure. This one?
Okay, yeah. So if you see the Justice for You slide, they have their numbers a little bit smaller, Middle Tree and TLC. Well, those are little. I could envision who are the people that they're working with because I understand the programming and so on. But the club is a more, it's just a lot of kids. There's no real picking and choosing. They just go, it's more open, more broad and open to the community. And you see that 27 number come up again. Remember we talked about that 30% or something? So how is it that we can start, because here what I see is that we're doing some heavy lifting here. So you're making traditionally students that maybe in the past would, like if you would have that socioeconomic group of students back in the system, those students would be more naturally all A's and B's and, because they have the resources and the money and the parenting and the education of the parents and all of that stuff to help them get that grade up. Given that we are like, what is it, 93% socioeconomically disadvantaged?
Around there.
Around there. We're pushing what would be a C student then. And if things were like a Walnut school district, and now we're taking that C student up some notches here. Are we able to measure that a little bit? How many notches we're, because you began to say, you started talking about 1 year behind, 2 year behind. Are we almost there where we're going to start being able to see a little bit of that, where the heavy lifting's coming in?
And that's what the next step is going to be, that they're going to look at the CAS data, 3rd grade and up, and to see where are we in regards to, are they, where do they fall? And we can refine this more to look to see where the gaps are for the kids. But again, this is one portion of, right now a little bit over 1,800 students, but it's more only because we've added the club to it. So it encompasses more. But we can start looking at to see how the kids are doing in CAS and other measures. But for right now, we needed to use something that was across the system, Lexile levels. We knew that that's across the system through high school. It's not in iReady, so you won't see it in the secondary as I go through here. But I don't know if that answers.
But it's beginning to, because we're beginning to get a peek at what is the heavy lifting here.
And you'll see right now with the grades. So we'll move through. This is again iReady beginning of the year, and then here's the district level. So it changes a little bit. But let's go here. And so again, we were just looking at programming. Of course, we know that most of the time, if you attend more than so many hours, you start seeing, you maintain or you stay. So here, again, students, we had about 625 students that attended more than 200 hours in some type of programming. And then we have less than 100, which is a lot, 92. But we start looking, these students attending 200 more can increase or sustain their math scores. And as you know, math is not just a Pomona issue right now, it's a nationwide issue. So we're working through and making sure that we provide the supplemental services for our students, along with the instruction our teachers and our classified staff supports in our schools. Student improvement by program, here you could see students advancing 2 or more grade levels depending. And again, TLC is the main umbrella, and Middle Tree and Justice for Youth, you know it as KEEP. And the club, where they're after-school programming, you could see that there was an effect of growth for our students in these programs measured by iReady. When we look at programs participating in advancing 2 grade levels with 30 or more programs, we look again, Middle Tree is up on the top. Then we have Justice for Youth, the club, TLC, and then low participation is considered less than 30 hours. So some kids signed up, may have left, or they were inconsistent. We did see some, but again, you see them when they have more support. And so we'll take that. So let's look at reading. Reading is, again, an issue. When we looked at beginning of the year, you could see that we had quite a bit of red, and we still have it in end of year, and this is measured through Lexile levels. And so you could see we had 87.1, not at grade level or 3 grades below, and when we left at the end of the year, 74.6. We look at here, again, 3 grade levels behind. We had 5,772 students as a district, just looking, and we're looking. But again, we had a little bit of green, a little bit more of blue, and again, working through with our Lexile scores. But let's look at student improvement for students in 2nd grade levels behind. We talked about 351 students. When we started, we were below grade level, 2 grade levels behind. But we started seeing some green moving over. Again, I think it's a combination, and I think we would all agree that it is the instruction during the day. It's a lot of things that we've put in place, and then our after-school program supporting what we're doing in the daytime. When we look at 1 grade level behind, we could see that 40 students were at grade level behind, but then after the end of the year, we started seeing a lot of green moving forward. When we look at our scores for our students, we have them here, all students, and we start looking at beginning of the year. And this is the way it breaks down. We have bright prospects. This is where we start seeing secondary come into the picture for Lexile. CYFC, Justice for Youth, Middle Tree, National College, and no participation, meaning that they make gains regardless of a program or not, and the club and TLC and Uncommon Good. When we look at end of the year, we start looking at these and we start seeing a little bit more green. Now remember, Uncommon Good not only works with our students that are mentoring, they also work with our students that have dyslexia. We've opened up a task force that we are looking at our universal screener that's going to go into place next year, and this is before the governor signed. We had already made that decision here in Pomona to move forward to ensure that we cover our students with dyslexia or struggling readers, as we call them. We look at the advancement by grade. So here it is by grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and you can see as they grow, and some of these students were really highly impacted in reading levels during the pandemic, and so we're seeing the effects here. Consistent ELA support gains, again, we looked at students with 200 hours, and you could see that there was maintenance and then just the blue advance, but less than 100, we saw a small group of regress, so just a tiny bit of some of those students in the pilot, but overall we did not see much regression. Here we go for ELA student improvement of 1 grade level behind. You see a 41% growth in Uncommon Good. Again, this is a very specific program of one-on-one, a lot of one-on-one tutoring, and it really backs up the research that says when you have that kind of opportunity, look at the gains you make. You look at TLC, 40%, Middle Tree, the club, Justice for Youth, and low participation in National College Research Foundation. National College Research Foundation has been really working in the area of math, and they do overlap with some literacy, so that's what you see here of 30 hours and more. Students with who advanced, yes. Mm-hmm.
What are the yellow blocks?
That
Which of
means-
these charts had yellow?
Here, low participation, less than 30 hours. So they wanted to just take a sampling of say, if you don't participate regularly, do you still grow? If you provide these spaces, yeah, you do grow, but you could grow more when you do one-to-one.
Back to that slide. So there, why National College Foundation? Why are they coming in below the Or participation?
Because, again, they specialize mostly in math. Most of the secondaries are using them for math pushing. And so they have after-school tutoring too, but a lot of their work has been, in the area of math. If
So
you
they
look
don't
at the high
measure, they
schools.
don't measure the reading?
But we still measure the reading because they do still have some after-school tutoring that they provide. But not as much as they do in math.
What common sense would tell you though that, like from doing these type of analysis, that if you're doing well in math, you would do better in reading. So why are they coming in?
I think that what we're seeing with the Lexile levels is the deficiency in the reading that's affecting them in the math. And we're seeing that
Yeah.
across the system for all grade levels, because a lot of the math now, you have to read the problems, and that's where our kids are getting stuck. And it's sort of the opposite right now.
It's sort of the opposite.
Okay.
Could I
Sure.
ask something else too? Something that is not indicated here really is, for instance, some of these programs for the number of students, the funding we put toward it is high, is very high. Like, we don't have that indicated here. Like, there may be 40 students, but that may be a $2 million investment in very few students. So of course they're going to be it's going to be more successful,
Correct.
right? Versus like maybe, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
If that same $2 million is given to a group that is serving,
And most of the
250
times-
students, I mean, it's going to be different than a program serving 40 students.
And like I mentioned with Uncommon Good, it's a combination of mentoring for college career readiness, but it's also serving dyslexic kids. TLC is open to everybody in Middletree, the club is.
Right, and that's
but,
another
yeah,
thing
and
too,
there's-
how many special
and there's
education students
special.
are involved in
Correct.
in these programs and other things that are maybe not indicated here.
And a lot of times, what we see also is some of the more expensive programs that sometimes we put, and we call it out by saying tier 2 and tier 3. Those sometimes can be, as we saw, 20% of our far below. They need more intensity, and so sometimes the cost is more. And it could also lead into, and we'll be adding this, the social emotional, the chronic absenteeism, the suspension. So sometimes we need to make sure that we have all those components. And so again, these programs were in response to pandemic. The measure is new. We are working through all these pieces and building it so that we could get a greater snapshot. But it depends on the need of the students, and sometimes the cost it's more expensive sometimes because, again, might be one-on-one. It might need a tier 3, a tier 2, so it's more intensive to make sure that we meet the needs of the students. So we have to tier this. So that's where our multi-tier system of support is coming into play, to ensure that it's equitable across the system and that we tier every support service for our students. And that's very important to do.
So can Schoolbox help us in that regard? For instance, there's a certain program that we might fund at $1 million that serves only 100 students. How much is that per student, and what students are they serving?
Yes.
So I mean, there's so many variables
And that's the nice
here.
thing with Schoolbox. I've been meeting with them now on a monthly basis, and so they can, do that. And I guess the question sometimes lies is, again, as we build out for the tiered and being an equitable system here in Pomona, is to make sure what is the cost to society at the end when the kid drops out or ends up in the pipeline. And we want to make sure that we in Pomona have been so responsive, and we thank you, our board members, for being so responsive, because we've been able to give our students what they need in the time that this has occurred. And considering, when we looked at CAS beta in literacy, and we held our own, and math, we've got some work to do. But again, we're looking and making sure that these dollars that we are entrusted with, to make sure that they go to the students, to make sure that they don't fall into that pipeline. And again, that is why we have literacy. All students should be reading by 3rd grade. And some kindergarten parents have asked us, I thought they read in kindergarten. I said they do, but they need to be for comprehension, because as was shared when we partnered with Western U, the Lexile levels, what are students who want to be in the medical field or any other fields in science or, outside of science, they have to have that high Lexile level. And we need to make sure they get there. So again, we can ask school box that. And so again, that whole child. So I'll go on. Okay.
Okay, so maybe, what I need help with is, so the different, like military or whatnot. Could we get something that says they work in this tier level and
Absolutely.
what each one is being paid? So
Absolutely.
we have a better idea of,
Yeah, what's the bang
if,
for the dollar?
Yes.
yeah, what's our bang
Okay.
for the buck?
Yes, sure. We can absolutely do that for you.
Thank
Okay.
you. That was
For the board.
I was gonna ask that
Okay.
question. Because, when you keep looking at Justice for Youth, they're looking, when I'm thinking of the kids that they work with, we're talking with kids with sometimes,
Harder
difficult-
problems.
well, a lot of autism, a lot of autistic, not too much support at home. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so their bang for the dollar is quite expensive. It should be, right? Because there has to be
Yes.
so much.
Yeah, students,
know.
we contribute, quite a bit, as Sandra, RC, it would be about 60%, so, but again, they're our most neediest, vulnerable students, and so we try and make sure that we meet the needs. But no, definitely we can provide that.
So another question, remind me, third, second tier, first tier?
Yeah, that first instruction, that great instruction our teachers give, and then it's when they need above, because maybe they don't know their sounds or they miss a few letters. Your tier 2 and your tier 3 is your more intensive. They're 2 grade levels, 3 grade levels behind. You got to do pull out. You have to work with, and then again for social emotional, it's the same thing. Some of our kids, unfortunately, and we did lose a lot of our, caregivers, parents, and may have some trauma. I unfortunately get to read all those cases where, some things have occurred and you're looking at it and you're thinking they need that tier 3, they need that extra support. That's why we've invested in counselors. That's why we're doing our, we're going to do our wellness centers at the secondary level, because we want to make sure we're responsive for those needs of our students. Okay. So here we're just, talking about 2 grades levels. Our students for reading, again, Bright Prospect up on the top, uncommon, but again, that program is different. It's very specific. It's a lot of one-on-one support, no participation, and I double check this to make sure. And so again, if they don't participate, will they still do okay? Yes, but for many of our kids that are far below basis, as you can see, as I started the first slide, 20% of our students are far below basic entering these programs, 1 year, 2 years behind. So again, sometimes the needs are different, and so we will provide that information.
Is the no participation then a mixed group of tier 1, 2, and 3 kids, or is it just?
They could be just general at grade level, and they don't need the support, but we have to have some comparison if you do have. But then the other students can be far below basic, and it's a mix. It is a mix of students, of families that we take all students in this program, and so sometimes we need kids, and you see it when you walk. One of the things that we do is we do go to these programs after school, and we walk through the classrooms, and some students need really help one-on-one. Just stand there next to them, work with them. They have to go over the foundational skills, their math skills, because they're not there. And then there's some kids that come right at grade level, but they need that support because parents are working. So there's two areas of support. Some parents they need the support. They don't know how to help their children. And then there's some parents that, because they're at work, they're working 3 jobs, just to make, we all know how expensive everything is. So again, here's 2 grade levels. And then again, here is these students that were at grade level, but we're pushing them because we want them to get into college, and we want to make sure that they have all the support that they need. Because again, when we're working with our mentoring programs and our programs, many of our students just need that extra support to help them through what do I need to make sure if I'm taking an AP class or a dual enrollment class, or how do I maneuver, support, and then we go all the way to like I said, a child that may not be reading at grade level, or be, again, we have students that missed all of K, all of first grade, and now they're coming in, and we now have them in second grade. And we've got to teach them how to read. And so again, our teachers do a fabulous job because they have to learn to differentiate instruction so much. And that's why we have our literacy coaches also and teacher specialists that help and, and go in there and model and work with the kids in this group because of the great need that has occurred. We had a gap already, but it just got more profound. Individual.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no.
Before you go.
Go ahead, Mr. Jimenez, and if I could ask my fellow board members, can we start writing down our questions and let her finish her presentation, and we can ask the questions at the end? Is that okay? Because she still has a substantial amount of information to go through. But you go ahead and do yours, and then from there, can we write them down? Is that okay?
No, I was going to ask you, this is a study session for us, right?
Yeah, but she has quite a bit to go through. So is that okay if we can write down our questions? And
Because there is so much that we have to go through, just going.
there's more data that she has to go through.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Well, I want to ask a question about this.
No,
gonna have
go
to be
ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, the question on the, how do you measure for an organization that might be, let's say, for the lack of a better word, just creaming your student, groups where that they're not, how do you ensure that they're actually, digging into the student groups where they're not just taking the natural, the higher achievers and working with them, where that's where they come up with a higher number of better testing. Because I'm looking at the numbers and because I have my kids participate, and I know who work, I can see who's where and what type of students are where.
I think that one of the things is that we do advertise our programming, but I think that and I'm going to go to the principals, and as a former principal myself, what we look at is we're constantly looking at data to look at what kind of supports we can provide to our parents, and to our students to make sure that they catch up. So when we look at, a lot of our principals are looking at and talking to parents to enroll them in these programs. The nice thing is that what we're planning to do, where we had, we weren't serving, and like I said, 1,800. Before pandemic, we were at 2,000. So, the staffing shortages have really hit hard. I mean, that's why we are partnering bigger than ever. But one of the biggest things that we do is we're trying to make sure that the students that need it get enrolled. And that's why we're saying now that our target is 120 spots at each school, which is huge, huge. Because it's basically you're running another program until 6 o'clock. But it's because of the need of those students that, require. And so teachers help us by telling them, do you know about the program? This is a great opportunity for you to have the space. And so that's what we've been trying to build. So it isn't about, again, ELOP money and ACES money sort of has given for every parent, even those high achievers, because they need that space. But really, we also target a lot of how can we meet the needs, because sometimes the day isn't enough. And that's why we have summer school and we have intercession now, and we provide different things for our students, because it isn't enough to catch them up because the gap is so wide. So that's what we're doing. But I would say that that's where our principals do an amazing job of really talking. Our teachers do an amazing job and say, you might want to sign up. But right now, that's our big push. We want to grow the program to have more slots. Because I have to say, we have waiting lists. Last year, we had waiting lists all over the place on the program. But we couldn't take kids because we didn't have the staff. And we have to stay to the ratios of 20-1. Okay. And this is just a brief overview so you could really see how many hours and students served by each program. And so you could see our TLC program, which is our biggest program that has started this, and we call it's the big umbrella, right? So we had 261,447 hours delivered to our students, serving 1,544. So when we said about 18, because it adds up with everything, 40.7 of our students improve at least one grade level in iReady, and we saw improvement of a 47% at least one grade level. The most service students, again, as you were asking that question, Mr. Jimenez, fourth, second, and third. You wonder why second and third. Those are the kids, our babies that miss school. So we're targeting them. And then here are some of the schools that had a lot of participation. We're not saying the other ones didn't, but San Jose and Bejar K8, so they had more slots, and then Arroyo again. But we wanted to just highlight some of our schools that we had.
Ms. Fuentes, I'd like to propose, because we have the section 4, which is individual program snapshots that you just started, that are more deep diving into specific programs. I have a feeling that we're going to have a lot more questions here for the sake of time, because we're still going to go into closed session, and then we still need to come back to open session. Could I propose that we do a second study session at our next board meeting where we do this again?
Yes.
That way, we're not rushed. That way, we can interact just like we are now. And you're not rushing through your presentation either. And maybe this will allow us to kind of look at the PowerPoint. I'm not sure if we have this emailed to us, but if it hasn't been emailed, could you have that emailed to us so we can digest that, have some more questions, and then take our time in going over this information? Is that okay?
No, that would be fine.
Is the board okay with doing that?
We have the presentation.
Digital with all the colors?
Yeah.
And this is hard to read.
Yeah, I'll make sure it gets in the
we
big
do have the
format.
presentation. I
Yes.
just meant emailed so that we have it digitally so we could see the colors and interpret it. And the correction with the
Yes.
population. So,
My eye doctor is really good, but she doesn't walk on water.
Okay. No. Well, thank you, and thank you for the questions.
thank you. That's a lot of great
Okay,
data.
thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Can I just?
Yes,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Perlman?
Thank you so much,
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Fuentes, for this information. And I'm really, we needed to see all this. It's like, it's laid out really nicely. So I appreciate the work that you and everyone else put into it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
So,
Can I just say, I just wanted to thank your team, you and your team for this. I know I've been hearing about this for 3 years, but the fact that we're beginning to see it, it's incredible. I mean, I like numbers, and because I keep looking at the numbers, I keep breaking up, my own, not just dad, and from my point of view, which is not scientific, not, I keep looking at things going like, man, we could do better here. This could actually begin to inform the way that we do our communication with the community, because I really do, because as a dad, who's participated for so many years, and I know that I'm speaking, to everybody upstairs a choir, but the thing is that as what we see is not what the community sees, and I wish, sometimes we wish we could just say, this is what's happening, and I think that's going to be important so that we can maybe start, having those conversations with even our media resources and so on, so they can start looking at these things and say, hey, because of that article that came out in the LA Times a couple of days ago about the widening of the Latino and the white, students. I mean, that was pretty damning, and in terms of the state of California and its education system, right? But here at the school district, I see us cutting against it, where we are making strides against it. That's not the story here necessarily, all of it. So there's another narrative that's cross-cutting back. So that's why it's so important that the work that you're doing. I really appreciate this. And as a board member, I can't tell you how much I really do appreciate seeing this, because it gives me strength in terms of, and hope in terms of that we are doing good work that we can demonstrate the good work, Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Okay, so we're going to adjourn a closed session. Mr. Moore?
At this time, we can go ahead and adjourn, and we will commence in the cafeteria and then come back shortly thereafter.
Thank you.
That was 2 hours?
Okay, good evening, everybody. We reconvene to the regular session agenda for July 26, 2023. Meeting of the Board of Education, Pomona Unified School District. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gonzalez,
Present.
Mr. Jimenez,
Present?
Dr. Perlman,
Here.
Dr. Nashua,
Here.
Mrs. Ty. Thank you.
Thank you. Section 1.04, announcements of actions taken in closed session. Mr. Moore?
Thank you. Regarding item 1 on the closed session agenda, entitled Conference with Legal Counsel Pending Litigation under the Government Code section listed, the board vote was unanimous in favor of denial of an appeal based on the application of precedent to applicable policy. No other reportable actions were taken.
Thank you, sir. Section 1.05, superintendent comments, corrections, or additions to the agenda. Mr. Knowles?
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a few pulls. For agenda item 5B04, classified personnel, change of assignment, salary, or status, we're pulling number 15, number 22, number 31, and number 38 only. We're pulling 7.18, fiscal agreement, amendment number 6, Southland Industries, pulled. 753, fiscal agreement, Pomona Pride Center Incorporated, pulled. 765, fiscal agreement, Wayfinder Family Services, DBA Junior Blind of America, pulled. And 8.03, proposed revision to board policy and administrative regulations, board policy 5030 and AR 5030, student wellness, first reading. That's being pulled. No further comments.
Thank you, sir. Going to section then 1.06, Associated Pomona Teachers Representative Comments. Do we have anybody here from APT? Mary? You have a hype team.
I know. Good evening, everybody. I have a prepared statement from Wei Sulo, the APT president. She is at the CTA summer conference. Okay. Good evening, President Gonzalez, Vice President Arturo, and members of the board. Good evening, Superintendent Knowles. Good evening, our APT and CSCA brothers and sisters, parents, students, and community of Pomona. Okay, I am sorry for missing another meeting tonight. This is from Wesu, so I'm not like embodying her or anything. You're like, okay, Ms. Morales is losing it. This past month, I participated in the National Education Association's Representative Assembly as a delegate. 2 other delegates from APT accompanied me. Diana Bermudez, Blendlyn Morano, and I were among 4,300 educators who gave input on the direction of NEA and what they will take in supporting our educators in lobbying for public education funding this upcoming year. There was a special focus on fully funding special education. This week, I am at the CTA Summer Institute with Timmy King, Yolanda Horn, and Eddie Perez. We are preparing for the upcoming bargaining sessions. Since the 2023-24 school year has begun, many of our teachers are already planning and preparing lessons for the new school year. Some of our teachers will begin their year in a new school. San Antonio Elementary School will not be opening their doors this fall. There is no doubt our San Antonio and some of the Marshall Middle School teachers have and will be using their 4 paid days to pack and unpack. Thank you again for that. We appreciate the days. Fellow administrators and colleagues, please make time to welcome and embrace our displaced educators. In this upcoming school year, APT will continue to work with human resources, information technology, and payroll to improve our members' attendance and payroll records. Since the district expects our teachers to put forth 100% of their efforts in teaching our students, we expect no less from the district in paying us promptly and accurately. It is also APT's priority to work with the district and parents to improve school conditions for our students. Our Pomona students deserve to attend clean, safe, and modern facilities. They should be able to play sports and to play on beautiful green fields at their schools. Our parents should be able to cheer their children from new and safe bleachers. Our Pomona students should be able to access resources, music and art programs, and career and technology classes coming from the extra funds and grants that POSD is receiving. Our educators will be instrumental in implementing these programs for our students. APT is also looking forward to the additional TK classes that POSD is offering. More students will be able to access early childhood education because of the expanded program. To staff these classes, POSD can help transition some of our child development teachers by offering scholarships and grants to pay for their credentialing requirements. APT believes that the programs and conditions that benefit our students also benefit our educators. Good working condition and living wages for our educators will vice versa benefit our students. Unfortunately, we continue to see many of our veteran teachers leaving these last few months. Some of the veteran teachers have been in Pomona for over 2 decades. They found jobs in the surrounding districts that pay better. They no longer need to pay over $1,000 out of pocket for health benefits. As we enter bargaining sessions in September, I hope you will also set a priority on better working conditions, competitive salaries, and affordable health benefits that our veteran teachers deserve. Have a great evening. And that's from WESU. Thank you, guys. And I just wanted to throw in, thank you again for all the hard work you guys do. I attended another meeting and I saw just how dangerous it can become. And I just want to say thank you because we're trying to work together. And working together is the only way we're going to be able to make this district as amazing as it should be. Thank you again.
Thank you. And just for clarification, it was another meeting not in this district.
Oh, it was not in this district.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you so much. Section 1.07, we have our California School Employees Association representative comments. Is Ms. Mariana Orozco here or a representative from CSEA? Okay, she may roll in a little later. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and move on to Section 1.08, Pomona Administrators, Confidential Classified Management Employee Comments. Do we have Dr. Cindy Green here or a representative from PACE? Okay. Going on to Section 1.09, Audience Comments. This is it. Okay. So we have 2 speakers tonight, possibly a third, we'll see. Our first speaker, Frank Guzman, if you can come up, and that'll be followed by Jesus Jaquindo Torres. And just as a reminder, we have implemented a 3-minute hard stop. So you will be indicated by your little flashing red microphone, letting you know that you have 10 seconds left. Once your 10 seconds are up, your microphone will automatically shut off.
Jesus and I are together, so.
Well, you each get 3 minutes.
Perfect. And do you mind if the others interject during our comments?
As long as you're in your 3 minutes, you're good.
All righty, we're ready to go. Start the time.
Start the clock.
Okay. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and staff, community members. We're here to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation on behalf of the students in the Lavender Youth Alliance program. Your commitment to enhancing education and investing in the well-being of our community's youth has made a significant impact, and we're incredibly grateful for that opportunity and for your support. The Lavender Youth Alliance has been instrumental in fostering a safe and inclusive environment which supports academic growth, social development, and mental health support for students within the program. With your support, we've been able to implement innovative initiatives such as the Youth Advocacy Lavender Leadership Fellowship for students in Pomona Unified, and offer opportunities that would otherwise have been challenging to realize. Not only has your contributions made a tangible difference, but it's also sent a powerful message of encouragement to the youth involved in the program. Your support at a time when neighboring districts are violating ed codes, state laws, and considering book bans sends a message of support and affirms that PUSD is committed to protecting and investing in all of its students. The impact of the support extends beyond the program itself. It helps create a sense of unity within the community, showing that collaboration between educational institutions and community organizations can yield tremendous benefits for everyone involved. So we'd like to acknowledge the contributions of the site administrators, the advisors at the school sites who have worked with us to nurture the vulnerable students that we support. I'd like to introduce the youth engagement team from Pomona Pride Center. Our Lavender Youth Alliance supervisor is Jesus Jaquindo Torres, and our youth engagement specialists are Oriana Guzman, Ashley Romero, and Ken Salazar. And I wanted to announce that the Pomona Pride Center met recently and took action to actually change our name officially. So over the next few weeks and months, you will learn that we are now known as the Pomona Valley Pride, which encompasses the area that we represent, which is the Pomona Valley region. I hope you all received some data that we provided with regards to the students that we support in Pomona Unified School District. And at this time, I'm going to pass it over to Ken.
Good evening. As a part of our intake process for students participating in the Lavender Youth Alliance, students were surveyed and asked the following questions. They are able to select from a sliding scale of 1 to 5, 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being strongly agree. Out of the 115 students in our pilot program, 100 participants took the survey, and these are some of the results. I feel safe at my school was one of the questions, and the average response was a 5.3%. Another question was, I feel a sense of belonging in my community, and the average response for that was 3.1%. And another question that was asked was, I know where to go if I need a safe space, and the average response for that was 3.59%. This assessment was taken at the start of our pilot program, and we did not get an opportunity to reassess at the end of the semester. But moving forward, we will have this assessment at both the beginning and the end to see if there's any changes in how students feel. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't hear the one part.
Which one, the?
Versus the clic.
Sure.
Just for clarification, so there was 3 questions that you presented. The first one was one on the schools, and the other 2 were more on the community?
So it's a whole list of questions. These are just the top questions that had percentages that were more eye-catching. So the first one was, I felt safe at my school, and that was a 5.3% response, or I'm sorry, a 3.5% response. Another question was, I feel a sense of belonging in my community, and that was a 3.18. It was a little lower, so that was also an eye-catching average response. And then another eye-catching response was, I know where I can go if I need a safe space, and that was a 3.59% response.
Thank you. Okay, so Jesus?
And then striving to empower our youth, we support them through implementing program and support services. During the pilot program, students had the opportunity to self-select the support and the programs that best needed their development and growth. And we provided pretty much a little breakdown of the top 4 most requested programs and support that the student selected, and that was based on art classes, career, college planning, tutoring support, academic planning support, and we highlighted that a majority of the students wanted to highlight their creativity alongside creating a college plan for the near future.
So some of the programs and events that we offer to support the students and their families will include having our drop-in center that's open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 7. We also want to honor our queer successes as well. So we have a Lavender graduation at the end of the school year, which this year we had at Western University. We also had a prom event at the Daw Center for the Arts, connecting them to other local places in our community. We have a winter warm-up where we provide different jackets in the winter to families and those in need, as well as different mentorship programs in partnership with Western University, and a leadership fellowship, which is a paid internship for students as well.
And last, we just wanted to share some of the responses that the students provided us when asked why they joined the Lavender Youth Alliance. And we're going to just read 4 responses.
So one response was, as a queer student, I want to learn more about my identity while also working towards creating Pomona Unified, a queer-friendly environment for students after I graduate.
Another was, I signed up with a friend who wanted to join. He didn't feel comfortable nor confident enough attending by himself. I joined because I wanted to support my community.
Another student expressed, because I'm gay and I couldn't express myself at home.
The last student says, because for some time I was in the closet and I didn't have any help with questions I had, and nobody I could talk to about the problems I had with being trans. And I want to meet people like me and help others if they are closeted to feel more comfortable with who they are.
So those are just a glimpse of some of the response from the students. In your packet, you have the full report where you can read more responses and more of the questions. But we wanted to just thank you for the opportunity to work and support PUSC students, especially at a time when we're seeing both locally and nationally that the queer community is under attack. Having your support in supporting PUSC students is crucial to the success of those students. So thank you. And that's what we have for this evening.
Thank you, Frank. And Oh, go ahead.
When I visited the workshops that you were doing that Saturday, it was amazing. You introduced me to a student at Pomona High who was having some challenges. We encouraged him to email me, but I never heard from him.
I will make sure to do an email introduction in the next 24 hours with that particular student.
I just want to make sure whatever he needs that we're checking in on him.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to ask, I know that the Pride Center services outside of Pomona. So and not that this matters because every student matters regardless of where they are, but in this 100 students that were surveyed, what % roughly do you think was reflective of PUSD students versus outside students that come to your program for support?
This program is 100% for PUSD students at this time. We are in negotiations with Bonita Unified School District as well as Ontario Montclair School District at this time. But this program was a pilot program with Pomona Unified only.
Perfect. I missed that. Thank you.
No problem. Oh, and also you should all have a goodie bag that it shows all of our programming, some art that some of our students created, and some other items that we have as part of the center that we thought you should take advantage of. So thank you. Sure.
Is this representative of how I'm seen by the students?
No. It could be, but I don't think so.
You're a Laker fan now, sir?
We just put random pieces of art that represent different gender and or sexualities so that you all, hopefully, if you don't know, you'll do some research and find out. If you can't find out, please give us a call and we'll help you with that.
Well, can I set up a meeting now? No.
Absolutely. When would you like to come in?
Very cool.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that's so pretty. That's beautiful. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we do have another speaker slip. Ms. Claudia Cano, would you please come up? And I don't know if you were here for the reminder on the 3-minute rule where we now have the signal on the mic 10 seconds prior to your 3 minutes and then the mic is turned off. So I'm not sure if you caught that at the front end of the meeting, but
yes,
just
that
a
will be
reminder.
fine. Will that apply to board members as well? Anyway,
Well, this is our meeting, so no, but go ahead. Your 3 minutes starts now.
thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Good evening, PUSD Board of Education members, Superintendent Mr. Darren Knowles, Cabinet members, General Counsel Mr. Moore, and audience. My name is Claudia Cano. I am a concerned community member representing the voiceless SELPA PUSD 38 schools, teachers, and parents. I am speaking out of concern that as we start the new school year 23-24, PUSD Board of Education members and superintendent continue to neglect the PUSD students as well as knowingly and willfully ignoring the students' needs, the teachers' recommendations, and public comments. All of you continue to move full force forward and neglect the issues. As per public records, PUSD is one of the wealthiest school districts, receiving on an average 289 to 400 plus millions in funding annually. But sadly, academics performance continue to be below average and the state of California basic requirements, and we can clearly see the reason as to why the Board of Education members and the superintendent are failing our students. I cannot stress enough that for decades, PUSD has been operating with double standards, with having to follow policies and procedures that are required by law. It has become apparent that PUSD has two defined groups of employees with different rules: those that apply to friends, family members, and VIP members, and the rules that apply to hardworking employees when they get harassed, retaliated, suspended, or terminated without explanation. PUSD refuses to comply with book adoption as required by law, and that is one of the reasons the students don't do well, because the textbooks are outdated, and some of them are older than parents at PUSD. They dated back to 1991. Please do not take my word for it. You can see for yourself the long list of outdated books in today's agenda. Last presentation that Monica Principi put together was vague and inconsistent, and therefore I did some research and found out that the state of California adopts books every 8 years. The last time PUSD adopted books was in 2007, when many other districts were adopting books every 3 to 5 years consistently, depending on the subject. We have noticed that many of PUSD well-known employees keep violating the legal requirements or failing to create and maintain committees as required by law. Why do you continue to employ friends and unqualified people rather than people that are qualified and familiar with the needs of the students and the parents in our community? It is beyond embarrassing not being able to showcase book adoption like other school districts such as Sacramento, Long Beach, and Baldwin Park, among others. Moreover, what is the logic of creating 51 vacancies from the removal of highly qualified teachers to put them in non-teaching positions instead of keeping them in class?
Thank you, Ms. Cano. Okay, on to Section 2, Information Items and Presentations. Section 2.01, Superintendent Oral Communications on Agenda Items. Mr. Knowles?
No comments at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Section 2.02, Approval of Minutes for the regular board meeting of June 14, 2023. I do, if I may, and I apologize, before we move this, I don't know if it's before or after, but Mr. Mesa, I apologize. This was one of the items I noted. If I can note it now, is that okay on the agenda items? For Wednesday, June 14, 2022, on information, section 1.05, if we can just correct the spelling of poet laureate, laureate being the word that we need to just make an adjustment on the spelling, I would appreciate that. Okay. So may I have a motion?
I motion that we accept the minutes with the correction.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a first with the correction of the spelling of laureate by Ms. Patty Tai. We got a second by Dr. Perlman. May I have your votes?
5-0, motion passes.
Yes, thank you. Section 3, consent calendar. The consent calendar includes items 3 through 8. All of these items will be considered and voted on together unless specifically removed for individual consideration. Section 3.01, oral communications on consent calendar items only. Do we have any yellow slips on section 3?
No additional speaker slips.
Thank you so much. Section 3.02, may I have a motion on the consent calendar, please?
I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Dr. Perlman, seconded by Mr. Jimenez. Any discussion? Okay, seeing as there is no discussion, may I have your votes?
Five zero, motion passes.
Thank you. Now going on to section 9, special action items. 9.01, oral communication on special action items only. Do we have any yellow slips on section 9?
No additional speaker slips at this time.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. 9.02, public hearing on the proposed approval of memorandum of understanding, or MOU, between APT, Associated Pomona Teachers, and the Pomona Unified School District on the pilot TK program. Ms. Sylvia San Martin, please.
Good evening, President, Mrs. Lorena Gonzalez, Vice President, Mr. Arturo Jimenez, Dr. Lisa Nashua, Dr. Roberta Perlman, and Mrs. Patty Tai. Thank you for your time this evening. And thanks for everyone who's here in July. So thank you for that. I'm here to present actually the next 4 items, 9.02, 3, 4, and 5. Just to introduce those generally, the overarching theme for all 4 items is basically these are the product of our negotiation and bargaining sessions that have happened thus far this year. 3 of those are for APT and 1 is for CSEA. And so these are off the regular, the contract, the overall contract. This is like side memos of understanding for pilot programs or for smaller groups or special actions. So 9.02 is our public hearing for proposed MOU for APT and PUSD for the pilot TK program. And we're recommending approval of the TK MOU, as we call it in short. And we're actually really proud of this because this was the first instance that both our district level new team and the APT bargaining team used interest-based bargaining, which is a different, more collaborative approach. And we included current TK teachers in the process to learn really what TK is about in light of the new regulations and for us to be in accordance with the Universal Transitional Kindergarten Initiative from the state of California. So we worked together, we considered working conditions, we all put our interests out up front, and we developed what we feel is very good language for our teachers and our students. We're reaching a ratio of 1 teacher for every 12 students. The initiative requires 1 adult for every 12. In Pomona, it is 1 teacher for every 12. So this is a really high quality program and experience that we're really proud of, and I think our teachers are really gonna benefit. The other thing that we built in there is a supportive model for co-teaching so that the 2 teachers are, in most cases, will be with an experienced TK teacher. So the new TK teacher will pair in several cases with an experienced TK teacher. We're really excited about the collaborative work around this. This was a big lift, but we're really excited and we recommend approval of this MOU. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'd like to open the public hearing now. Public hearing has been opened. Have we received any public comments regarding item 9.02?
Not at this time.
Okay, so I'd like to close the public hearing. May I have a motion on 9.02?
Go ahead.
I like to move it. It's wonderful that in California we're moving in this direction. It's incredible.
I'll second it.
All right, moved by Mr. Jimenez, seconded by Dr. Perlman. Do we have any discussion, board? Sure.
Well, I could say that when I had an opportunity when I was younger with my wife to travel to Paris, and I learned about what an early education teacher has to do in France to be an early education teacher. And I think they almost have to have like almost a master's degree over there or something like that. It's ridiculous in terms of the high, because he realized how important that, the early education was back in France. So it's really great to see that we're actually not just talking about it now, that we're actually moving in that direction. I'm really excited for our community, for our families, and hopefully, for closing that gap that we always talk about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Any further discussion or comment? Okay, may I have your votes, please?
Five zero, motion passes.
Okay, section 9.03, public hearing on the proposed approval of the memorandum of understanding MOU between Associated Pomona Teachers and Pomona Unified School District regarding payment of declaration of retirement. Ms. San Martin?
So this is a much smaller scale, but it could really mean the difference for 1 or 2 people in the district. So teachers, typically, teachers that are going to retire in the year, we offer a 5% incentive to notify the district early by the end of September. It helps us in planning. With the consolidation that happened in San Antonio, we are opening up the 5% for anyone who's of retirement eligibility age that's saying, I'd rather not move all my stuff from one school to another and start all over again. They'd rather retire. So we're offering the 5% as an incentive for them making that decision. And we understand how difficult it is. And if this just affects one person, it'll mean the world to that one person.
Okay, thank you. So I now open the public hearing. Have we received any public comments regarding 9.03?
None at this time.
Okay, so I'll now close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
I make the motion, please.
Okay, Ms.
I'll
Tai?
second that.
Okay, Ms. Tai has made the motion, seconded by Dr. Perlman. Do we have any discussion? Okay, and I agree that if we could make a difference, even for one individual, it's everything. Okay, may I have your votes?
Five zero, motion passes.
Okay, now section 9.04, public hearing on the proposed approval of a memorandum of understanding, or MOU, between Associated Pomona Teachers and Pomona Unified School District on special education, case management, inclusion, period, and special education subcommittee. Ms. San Martin.
Yes, thank you. This is another MOU, and I want to give a little bit of context to the experience that secondary teachers have in teaching and both supporting a caseload of 28 students in the mild moderate program. So this affects high schools and middle schools in the mild mod. So teachers, in general ed teachers typically teach 5 periods a day, and they receive 1 conference period a day. That's their planning period, contacting parents, doing grades, planning lessons. A special education teacher also teaches 5 periods, also does the same planning for teaching the 5 periods, many times has multiple preps because of the smaller numbers and because of the needs of the students. And on top of that, manages a caseload of 28 students. In their own time, make appointments with the students to do testing, to do progress monitoring, to check in on how they're doing on progressing on their goals. So it was a common interest for both APT and for the district to provide some additional time. It's also very critical for the reason that we are working towards a goal of improving our metrics, our state metrics, in regards to the least restrictive environment. And in order to do so, we need to support inclusion and provide that flexibility. What this would do, it's not just for case management, but it also includes that ability to visit and encourages set teams, special education teams at the sites, to allow students to be in the general ed, be fully included, or partially included where they can be, and be able to give them the flexibility in their schedule to visit them in their classes and provide support and a push-in rather than constantly be in a pull-out program or in a separate program. So we hope that this is the first step in improving our metrics in that area, and so we're looking for your support on this one. And we've added another acronym as well. It is the CMIP, Case Management Inclusion Period, like we do in education. So thank you. If you have any questions.
Okay, so I'd like now to open the public hearing. Have we received any public comments regarding 9.04?
None at this time.
Okay, perfect. We don't have any. We're going to close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. 19 years ago, when I started in the district, was the first year they took away that period. So this is a long overdue step to correcting a situation that has horribly impacted special education teachers. So yes, I make that motion.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Okay, motioned by Ms. Tai, seconded by Dr. Perlman. Do we have any further discussion on this item?
Yes. What does CMIP stand for?
Case Management Inclusion Period.
Just in case we forgot.
Any further discussion? Okay, may I have your votes, board?
Five zero, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, section 9.05, public hearing on the proposed approval of a memorandum of understanding, MOU, between California School Employees Association, Chapter 14, and the Pomona Unified School District on the reclassification of Campus Security Assistants to Campus Security Officer 1. Mr. Maravilla.
Hi, good evening, President Lorena Gonzalez, Vice President Arturo Jimenez, and board members, Superintendent Knowles, staff, and community. My name is Sylvester Maravilla. I am the Interim Administrative Director of Human Resources and Security Services. Tonight, Human Resources is asking the governing board to hold a public hearing and approve a memorandum of understanding reclassification of Campus Security Assistants to Campus Security Officer 1 between CSEA and Chapter 14 and the Pomona Unified School District. This MOU is a result of the collaboration and hard work between the district and CSEA's bargaining team. I want to thank Mariana Orozco. She's in Reno at the CSEA conference, so she's not here today. And her team for their hard work. This resulted in the reclassification of 5 of their current campus security assistants to campus security officers. Should the governing board approve the MOU, we will also be submitting the necessary personnel requisitions for change of assignment for your approval at the next board meeting. At this time, I would happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Maravilla. I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any public comments on item 9.05?
Not at this time.
Okay, wonderful. I will close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
I'll move 9.05.
Okay. May I have a second?
I have a second with a comment.
Do you want to add it in the discussion piece?
No, I just want to know how come I was made to meet up. I had to wear a tie and Mr. Maravilla didn't.
Okay. This item has been moved by Dr. Perlman, seconded by,
Did you second?
seconded by Mr. Jimenez. Disgruntled because he had to wear a tie.
It's
Is there
hot.
any discussion? Okay, no further discussion. May I please have your votes?
Five zero, motion passes.
Wonderful. Okay, section 9.06, public hearing on the proposed appointment and approval of the district's collective bargaining representatives. No speakers? Okay, so I'd like to open the public hearing. Have we received any public comments regarding section 9.06?
We have not.
No comments, so we're going to close the public hearing. May I have a motion on 9.06?
I'll move 9.06.
Okay, moved by Dr. Perlman, seconded by Mr. Jimenez. Any further discussion by the board? Okay, may I have your votes, please?
Five zero, motion passes.
Okay, on to section 10, open oral communications. Section 10.01, any additional yellow slips for section 10?
Not at this time.
Wonderful. Then we're moving on to section 10.02, board and superintendent oral communications and concluding comments. Mr. Knowles.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I hope everybody's enjoying their summer. I know that the summer is ticking away. I don't want to make anybody sad by saying that. We have our students returning back on August 14th. We will be welcoming them back to our campuses. Our teachers will be returning back on August 8th. Our new teacher orientation is scheduled for August 1st. And I want to thank our custodians and our additional classified staff that are helping us get our campuses ready this summer. I know Mariana has helped us with that, and I know she's in Reno also tonight, so thank you for the team's work on that. This summer, we've offered the Pomona Discovery Camp for the first time. It's a collaboration with the city, AMOCA, the club, and then also the Doss Center for Arts. We've had about 100 to 125 kids who typically haven't been able to go on vacation during the month of July. They've been participating, and we're getting really, really good feedback from the program. I want to thank the Library Foundation for their summer field trips. This kids have just been incredible, and Dr. Perlman, they are requesting a redo on the Crystal Cove trip. I've been hearing that a lot, so I'd like to go back to the Discovery Camp and thank the staff that have been working with our kids this summer. Fernando Mesa and Lorraine Canales and others that have been so instrumental in making sure that program is going. And then I want to give a big, huge thank you to Lilia Fuentes, our deputy superintendent. You know, when we came out of COVID, the feds have given us a lot of money to provide intervention for helping our kids catch back up. And so on the turn of a dime, Lily and the team provided these enrichment opportunities through our partnerships with some of our nonprofits in the community, and she presented some of that data tonight. I know we're going to do a second part of that so we can get deeper into the data, but I do want to thank Lily and the team for that huge lift. It was a lot of work, and now we have additional funding for our after-school program that can fund before, after, intersession, and also summer programs for enrichment, for students to do hands-on activities. And so, Lily and the team have been working very hard to do that. In addition to all that work, I'm understanding that we're going to receive a letter from the county where we successfully got our LCAP approved. We're excited about that. And then also on top of all of that, we have our TK implementation, which we've expanded our TK program. And so we're super excited about that. And I want to thank APT and Sylvia and the team for also negotiating that MOU so we can address TK. So I'm excited about the start of the school year. We're offering a lot of programs for our families. We're going to be doing some ribbon cutting. I'm not going to say for what soon. We have a couple new programs that we're going to be announcing soon. And we really want to make a big deal out of it because it's for kids. And so we'll be making those announcements. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to make any more announcements. I will say that we have a new pickleball court at Fremont. So for you pickleball fanatics, we have a new court at Fremont, and I know the kids love playing pickleball as well. So that concludes my comments for the night. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Knowles. Would any of my board members like to go first?
I could go first.
Okay, Mr. Jimenez.
Mariana, the president of CSEH, just texted me about how she wanted to thank all the board members for approving the MOU. I quickly text back and I asked her, "You can watch from a slot machine?" I asked. She said, "Laugh out loud." Unfortunately, I'm on the phone while I'm on break, so she's actually working, so she's not on the slot machine. So other than that, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Again, I want to thank the team, Liliana, your team, for the beginning of what we're seeing there. It's very, very, very promising. And it's for someone that we always hear so much bad news about the work, that there's actually really good news in the work that we do. So thank you so much for giving us that promise of that the work that we're doing is actually really, that we can actually measure it. So thank you so much for that. And I'd like to thank the Pride Center for coming out for the good gifts and for hopefully having that meeting so that I can elaborate on my work of art. My wife will certainly use this to help me get into the gym. So other than that, have a great summer. It's a great time to just have fun with the family right now. So enjoy yourselves.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Anybody like to go second? Okay. Dr. Perlman, would you like to go second?
First of all, good evening. Thank you for all those who are attending in person and those watching the meeting. First of all, I want to thank Board President Gonzalez and her son Joaquin and Mr. Jimenez's daughter, Kairi, for coming to all the field trips that we're running through the Pomona Public Library Foundation. We take 60 to 65 people every single week to some amazing trips. We were just at Grand Park today, so we're all a little tired. It was a little bit hot there, but we went through an ecology program and then got to play in the splash pad at that beautiful fountain and learned a lot about the architecture in Los Angeles and other things. So anyway, we had a lot of fun. And but I can't do the work without the support, of course, of the foundation, Pomona Unified School District, and Joaquin and Kairi have been on all the trips with me. So thank you to my fellow school board members for having such wonderful children.
I have 4 kids. Whenever you want to put them to work.
Okay, thank you. I'm really excited about the expansion of our TK program, and I've been a huge advocate of early education, and so excited and for future expansions of that program. We have one more week of our discovery camps. So our discovery camps have been amazing, and we have one more week. San Jose will be starting on Monday, and that will be the last week. So if anyone wants their children enrolled in that camp, we still have space And so I encourage, if you know people that have children between 5th and 8th grades, they can come to those camps. It's completely free, and it is amazing. The kids are doing just great. They're very happy. I just want to say regarding that school board meeting you attended, Ms. Morales. I just want to thank my fellow school board members and our superintendent and our entire cabinet and all the people that are employed by the district and our parents for acting with kindness and decency. The kindness always matters. And when the state superintendent of public instruction comes to a meeting and is booed and asked to, and escorted out by security, the state superintendent, that is not respectful behavior and it's not decent behavior. So, so I thank all my fellow school board members and our entire team for always, and no matter, we may disagree on things, but always acting with kindness and decency and respect. So I think that's all the comments for me, and this summer did seem a little short. I don't mind saying. But anyway, I do look forward to the beginning of school. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tai, would you like to go next?
I was trying to sweat Lisa out, so.
I can go.
No, I'm kidding. So I do want to brag just a little bit. I just was in Texas, got home last night, and I was shocked. My sister-in-law works in the IT department in the Austin area, and they're still on Chrome carts in their school district. And I was like, really? We're 1-to-1. So that was just kind of, you think everybody's 1-to-1, but here, Texas, you would think they were 1-to-1. Anyways, I wanted just to share that with you. And I'm so excited about the added period for special education and the help with inclusion. When I was at Diamond Ranch, it was a hard conversation to get, oh gosh, her name escapes me, who is the director of special ed, and Monica Principi, to allow me to do inclusion into classrooms. And to see that it's going to be nurtured better is encouraging, and that the teachers have more time for planning IEPs. When you say caseload of 28, yeah, but if you do your IEPs well, you're often way above 28. But I'm just thankful that it's a step in the right direction for our special education teachers. I'm so excited for the new school year. I mean, coming in, and Lisa and I coming in December, it will just be fun to be a part of the beginning of the year. And hopefully you'll take me a lot of places. But just, and I am thankful to work with a board that we do all get along really well. So thank you, and enjoy your summer, and the first day of school is coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tai. Dr. Nashua?
Thank you. I want to say that our district is special. And clearly, when we look at other districts, and I feel like team members and family members from Pomona Unified, when they go to another district, they almost get traumatized. So I'm very sorry. And I think that they need some coping mechanisms. And I wonder if perhaps my colleague, Dr. Perlman, should go and talk to them about sky breathing, because they need some coping mechanisms, clearly. And they need some guidance. And I mean, I just think that there's something wrong when you can't deal with people in a respectful manner, you know? So, with all of that said, 33 years ago today, the American with Disabilities Act was passed. Today is American with Disabilities Day. I don't know if very many people know that. And every day I drive on the 10 freeway and I see a billboard that doesn't say disabled, it says differently abled. And so I just want to remind everybody, when we think of equity and we think of all the different facets, to remember that our differently abled individuals also are part of equity and have that need to be recognized and their needs met. I want to thank our senior staff. I appreciate all of the hard work because I know I ask a lot of questions. I'm still learning, and I appreciate you being patient and being willing to share all that information because it's extremely meaningful. And I just want to say thank you. And have a wonderful summer, and hopefully it will start to cool down.
Yes,
No,
Mr.
it's
Jimenez?
So you reminded me, and we have to say it. No, because the American Disabilities Act is important.
Shut his mic off.
Shut me down. My 3 minutes are over. No, we need to, and if we are going to be celebrating the American Disabilities Act and what that has done for our community. We would be remiss not to include Edward Tessier here in our community, who's been an incredible person in pushing the American Disabilities Act. I was out of the country, and we had like we were staying in a hotel where everything was, for the disabled. It was so beautiful because the kids were saying, "Oh, look, Dad, they have this," and we had a great discussion about how that part of the work that has been done in California and in the United States has now reverberated throughout the world, not just America. So, yeah, the work that those individuals did to bring about the American Disabilities Act is not just helping individuals here, but throughout the world. And Mr. Ed Tessier, who's a member of our community, had a lot to do with that when he was a younger man. Thanks so much to Tessier family for that. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out, because when I was in Italy and people were trying to get on a Vaporetto, there was no assistance for the handicap, and literally people had to help a person pick up his wheelchair to get him on the Vaporetto. There were no accommodations. So we are very, very special, I think, in the United States by being inclusive.
Well, I don't even know what a Vaporetto is.
It's not coffee.
Okay.
Okay, so board, for the rest of my presidency, Mr. Jimenez will go last so that he can jot down every thought and be prepared for his piece on the first round. Okay, so first off, I know 4th of July has come and gone, but I would like to thank anybody in the Pomona Unified School District family that is a veteran or has lost a family member to a war. I would like to honor you and thank you for your service, and all of our educators in our JROTC program that do a phenomenal job with our students in the way that they behave and their leadership skills. Thank you so much for everything that you do and the service that you have honored us with in this country. I didn't want to go past July without mentioning that I am deeply grateful for that. So thank you. Our school consolidations for San Antonio, I am so happy to hear the 4 days of paid time that we're giving our educators so that they can relocate, gather their things. I am still open and willing to go help. I know that there's complications, but I'm more than happy to do that. I think it's a difficult thing to do, and so far, I really haven't heard a whole lot of any negativity coming from this change from either parents or teachers, and so I'm so I feel so fortunate and lucky that we're in a district where we're all very understanding when change happens, and it has to happen for the right reasons, that we all kind of come together to help each other and make that transition as smooth as possible for our educators and our families alike. So to the support staff and administration and all of you that have been involved in getting that all orchestrated, thank you so much for that. Ms. Fuentes, thank you so much for letting us know that we are leading in universal screening for dyslexia. It's one of so many things that Pomona Unified School District is leading on. And it's again, proud to be PUSD once again, because we're forward thinkers. All of you are forward thinkers. And it's not because we want to be ahead of the race, but it's because we see a need for our families and we just want to fill the need. And sometimes it just means we're first in doing that and getting innovative and creative. So thank you for that. I'm very proud of that. Pomona Valley Pride, I took a peek inside the bag, the facial scrub, and all these goodies. Thank you so much for thinking of us. I really do appreciate the gifts. And I do see your programming on social media constantly, and they have a robust amount of programming for our youth in the community, in and outside PUSD. So I'm very grateful for their programming that will serve and serves youth that are otherwise abandoned or don't have support or don't have someone to hear them and love them as they are deserved to be loved. So thank you for providing that. To our cabinet and Mr. Knowles, and what? Our counselors. Stop. So, thank you so much for putting up with all of the stuff that we're throwing at you, all the study sessions that we're asking for. I'll tell you what, when Arturo and I started, these are things that I remember we were kind of asking for way back then in terms of like, what about this and what about that and how many properties do we have and, what does our plan look like? And to see that it is all coming together and my growth and learning and understanding of what you all do every single day, working towards those goals and giving our families the best possible education in the best possible facilities. I know you all worked very, very hard, and I know that we add a lot to your plate, but I also know that you'll have it on your desk somewhere, and you're just going to pull it out and show it to us because I know you're already working on this stuff, and I thank you for being patient with us. Your availability, your flexibility, your laser focus on the initiatives that are important to us as a board, how you address those. It really makes me feel supported, and just today I was asked, how do you like being on the board? I absolutely love it because I have people here that listen to me, that support me, that make me feel like I belong here, like I'm welcomed. That if I didn't have that, I might not have liked doing what I do, the work that I do. But you all make it so very easy. And so do the parents. They are so kind and they are so loving. And so that makes me feel really good. And it makes me feel like I belong here, which belonging is such a critical part of being somewhere. So that's how I feel. And something else someone told me today, I don't know if Dr. Perlman, they let you know, but what the main guide, and I miss her name because I'm very bad at names, but she said during our Grand Park trip, we love, Rosa Maria, we love your group every year. Your students are the best. Your parents are the best. You all are so involved. I will say you might see a picture here and there of me rolling in the water on the floor like a whale. But that was just part of us engaging our children because we care about them, and that's how our families are, and that's how all of you are. And I'm so proud to hear that from outside of our district, them saying that our children are exemplary, that they are educated, that they are proper, that they behave well. The whole bus ride. Nobody was out of their seat. Nobody was jumping. I mean, it's a proud mama moment, but it's also a proud board member moment, knowing that we can take our students and our children just about anywhere, and they're going to behave and they're going to be wonderful students and stewards of our district because of the work our teachers do and our parents do and our staff and administration do. So thank you. And Joaquin adores you. So he will go to every trip with you. I think I could say no to him and he would not have it. So you can have them whenever you'd like. So those are all my comments I have for tonight. I apologize if I forgot anybody, but thank you so much for being here. It's still a longer meeting than we anticipated, but it's all important things. Again, we will see each other once again. So with that, our next board meeting is our regular board meeting, Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.